Hello all and welcome to a new section called Culinary Creations. Now technically I'm a qualified chef. I spent a few years working in the industry but decided it wasn't for me and went into other things, but I still enjoy cooking and above all, eating. I would love to be a food critic, it would be the best job ever. So I just thought I'd do a few videos, show you some of my favourite recipes, tips, tricks, all that sort of thing, just to show that it isn't really that difficult to make some really good food. We're going to start with one of my favourite things to make, homemade pizzas, from scratch, base and everything. The toppings you can just make up as you go along, the possibilities are endless. Once you've got the base down, you can just go for it. Enjoy! Okay, so first of all we're going to make the base. Ingredient wise we've got 300 grams of flour, 175 millilitres of warm water and one of those sachets of dried yeast, though you'll only need half a sachet for this. A lot of recipes will say you need to use salt or oil or both, but I never have and never will. So first thing to do is put the yeast in the water. Don't use like boiling water, it will just kill the yeast. I did boil the kettle for this, but that was probably about 20 minutes, half an hour ago, so it's cool enough now in order to be okay for the yeast. Flour into a big bowl. You don't have to sift it really, but I just like to so that it can get out any big lumps and all that sort of thing, so it's just a personal preference thing that I do really. Whenever I make anything with flour I always do it. So, up to you really. Doesn't take too long. There is 300 grams of flour in here. You will need a little bit more later on for the kneading and all that. When it gets to that stage, I won't expect you to sit there and watch me knead the dough. I will sort of fast forward all that side of things, so don't worry about that. Yeah, now. You will also need a spoon to mix it all together with first of all, and a tea towel for later on. As long as you have everything ready, here we go, need that out. Right. Show us what I've got there. Right. The last little bits. Okay, that'll do. Nice. Right. So now we do make a little well in the flour there. And in goes. Oh, so it used to get caught up in it. Oh well. Sure, it'll be fine. Some of the yeast was just sat on top, wasn't actually in the water, but doesn't matter, I'm sure it'll be absolutely fine. In goes the yeast and the water. Alright. Then you just mix it up, really. The good thing about this is that if it's 300 grams of flour, 175 ml water, but if you are slightly out with one or the other, it's not the end of the world, it is rescuable. Although this is actually the second attempt at doing this today. I did it a minute ago, but the problem with that is that it starts, the first label on it's 200 ml, so needing 175, it's kind of awkward, and you'll maybe mess. It's a little bit awkward to try and get it right. So I just added in a little bit of water, and it was far too much, even though it was literally just a case of jump. It was too much water, it went all soggy. So rather than then adding flour, I just thought, start again. But if it does get to the stage where it is a little bit too wet or dry, you can just add some flour or water, whichever is needed to bring it back up to how it should be. It's easier if it's a bit wetter than it needs to be, because adding a little bit extra flour is much more simpler. Right, so now we've got it mostly mixed up. Scrape that off. Now this is where we get all handsy. So if you don't like getting good and dirty, then this really isn't going to be for you. Good fun though. Right, that'll do. And then you start. That's much better than it was before. Right, so you just give it a good old squeeze together, get all the bits off. Knead it slightly, so you just want to get it to a nice ball, really. It should be. You're looking for the sort of consistency where it's slightly sticky, but so that it doesn't actually stick to you. So if you put your hand on it like that and it comes away all right, then it's probably fine. Okay, here we go. So now it's all in one bowl. Right. There we go. if it is now, it's slightly sticky, but it's doing alright. Okay. You don't want it to be too dry. Right, so now we've got our bowl. Get all the bits off the side there. Now this is where the full-on kneading comes into it. What you do is you put your bowl to the side, get your flour, making a mess at the same time, of course. You sprinkle a bit on the surface like that, and then you get into it. Just a good old knead. And if you really want to give it a few, got a bit of anger inside you need to get out, then this is a good opportunity. So you just sort of do this now for about 10 minutes or so, just to knead it up. So this is where I'll start fast forwarding it, so 10 minutes will fly by. Right, so it's been about 5-10 minutes, I'm not entirely sure, I didn't look at the clock, but it's yeah, 5-10 minutes of kneading is all you do, and you get a nice dough. Hopefully you can see it alright. So it's like that, it's nice into a ball. So all you need to do now is to leave it to rise. So you just chuck it back in the bowl, and you just leave it. If you've got a tea towel or something to put over the top, brilliant, go for it. Preferably a sort of a slightly damp one if you've got one, but if not, then don't worry. And that can just go in an airing cupboard or something like that for about an hour and a half. I don't have one here, so I just leave it on the side. It works perfectly well. And that's it, you just leave it for about an hour and a half. So, come back then, and we'll see how it goes. Right, so it's been just over an hour and a half, and as you can see, the dough has risen quite nicely. We're going to be actually sorting out the main pizza now, so for this sort of thing, you'll need your cheese. I don't know how much is there, it's just a bowl of cheese, probably 120 grams-ish, no idea. Just a bowl of cheese, tomato puree, the flour for going to be needing a bit more, and whatever you're going to be putting on top. I'm actually doing tuna. Might sound a bit weird, but I thought it was weird until I tried it and it worked really well. Rolling pin, baking tray, we'll need those in a minute. So all you're going to do for now though is just to get the dough back to how it should be. So you take it out and we're just going to knead it again for a couple of minutes just to get it back to its normal self. Let's put that like that. This recipe, I probably should have said it earlier on, but this recipe normally makes enough for probably 3 sort of nicely sized pizzas, 4 if you either don't have much of an appetite or if you're doing it for kids. So actually this would be a good thing to do if you've got kids for a rainy Sunday afternoon or something like that. They can make their own pizzas, so you can get 4 nicely sized child pizzas out of this, or if you're sort of like me, you love it, 3s. It pretty much fit nicely into that, the pizza. So 3 of that size. Yeah, that's if you like it quite a thin base. If you like it thicker, then it'll be a little bit less. So. Need it a little bit more, so it should be okay now. So now what we need to do is just to divide it into the 3. This can be frozen. It will last for a month or so in the freezer, probably longer. That's just what they recommend. Otherwise, if you leave it in there for too long, then it does lose some of its form and all that, and the bases when they're cooked, they don't come out quite as good as if it's either fresh or just not frozen for that long. But even so, if it is in the freezer for a couple of months, it would still be fine. So I don't think that if it's a month, you've got to throw it out. So just do them into balls, roughly the same size. Yeah, that'll probably do it. So there we go. So now we've got our 3 dough balls. And if you wanted to, you could probably just turn this into actual dough balls, turn them into smaller balls will bung me in the oven. That'll be quite good. So there we go. There's the 3. So put 2 to the side, I'll put them in the freezer later on. So this is what I'm going to use for this. Right. So now what I'm going to do, again, oven is preheating, 180 degrees. I don't know about gas mark and all that, it's 180 Celsius, Fahrenheit, God knows. Google search will help. I normally say, if in doubt, 180 gas 6, Fahrenheit, no idea. So I should do the job. Right, so now what we're going to do is to roll out our dough. Again, as I mentioned before, I normally do it quite thin. This does rise slightly in the oven, so you can do it actually smaller than it normally is. Thinner than you would do normally, so that when you take it out of the oven, it will rise a little bit. Normally it comes out bigger than that, but then again I suppose, yeah. Normally maybe it's just a slightly smaller ball than normal. Normally they come out bigger than that. But oh well, it's still big enough. Right. Do. Okay, so the first thing that we put on, just that way. Right, I'll do it. So all I normally do is just to put a little bit of flour on the baking tray. I don't know why I do this, it probably has no effect whatsoever. It's just a weird thing that I do just because I'm special. Right. Okay. So now, base on there. Right. First thing to put on it is the tomato puree. Just squeeze it on. You probably can make your own tomato puree. I've never tried. I have got a recipe somewhere for it. So if people really want to know how to make their own, I can probably give it a try at some point. But I never have done. I just tend to buy that. It does the job. What am I looking for? You'll need like a spatula-y thing. How does it disappear? Things always disappear around here. If you don't have a spatula or anything that you can use to sort of spread it around, we did have one, it's disappeared. Then you can always just use a knife, it'll do the job. Just spread it around. All the way up to the edges. When I was a kid, if I was doing stuff like this, I'd always just do it as a blob in the middle like that, never go all the way up to the edges, and always had to be moaned at to spread it around a bit. I was a weird child. Anyway, you just add on as much as you want really. If you want it to be a little bit thicker, then just add a little bit more on. Or if it doesn't quite cover it all, actually this is going to, so I'll just add on a bit more. So yeah, about half the tube. This is double concentrate though, so you probably don't need too much. As I mentioned before, normally, yeah, 3 pizzas. This is slightly smaller than what it would normally come out. I think normally it would be a little bit more covering the pan, but it will do. Just went to visit one of my neighbours and she force-fed me a load of little biscuit things, so I'm really hungry now, but it'll still be good by the time it's cooked. Okay, that'll do it. Cool. Okay. Right, so that's that. Next, cheese. Again, just sprinkle it on. You don't have, this is extra mature cheddar, you don't have to use that. A popular one's mozzarella, that can work quite well. It's a bit difficult to grate, so tend to cut it into thin slices and place it on the pizza. Red Leicester works quite well, but you can use any cheese you wanted. I mean, as much as I can't stand blue cheese, you could go with some of that. Something like brie probably wouldn't work too well, but hey, experiment. That's what this is all about. Trying things a little bit different. Now with the cheese, as it melts, it will sort of like blur a little bit, as the technical term. So you don't have to go right up to the edges, particularly if you're piling it up like I am. Yeah, not exactly healthy these, but yeah, oh well. Just have to spend a bit more time down the gym. There we go. And then the main topping. Mix. So although I did strain this is the in brine variety. So although I did strain it a little bit, I did leave some of the brine in there where it's going to the oven. If you properly get all the moisture out, then it will be a little bit dry. So I always just leave some in, just enough to keep it a little bit moist, just so that it doesn't sort of slop all over the place. There we go. And then again, just smush that all about. And then you are ready to bung it in. The tuna is good, it works extremely well, it is really good and tasty. Of course it's not as good as like a meat feast pepperoni or something like that, but it is very nice. Normally I add on peppers, jalapenos, tomatoes, anything else you like really, but I haven't got any at the moment, so I've got one other thing to put on after it's cooked, but just at this stage, it's spinach. So if I put that on now, then the spinach will go all gnocchi in the oven, so I'll put it on afterwards. And there we go. That's your pizza ready to go into oven. So it will probably take, depending on how thick you have it, 20-25 minutes, something like that. So bung it in the middle and leave it to do its stuff. So we'll be back in about 20 minutes time to get the finished result. See you there. Here goes, pizza's been in for 20-25 minutes, so hopefully it should be ready to go. Oh yeah. Oh, it smells so good. Yeah, that's it. There we go. It's stuck. Yum. There we go, and that's it. Pizza done. Bit of a closer look. See, it's all there. Tuna, nicely cooked. So as I mentioned, got the spinach, chuck it on, gives it a bit of green, I love it, it's great stuff. So as I mentioned before, normally I put on peppers or something like that, jalapenos, just make it up as you go along really. Once you've got the initial base down, you can just add on whatever you like. If you've got some leftover chicken, something like that, that goes on quite well. Meat feast, go for a vegetarian option. Just experiment, see what happens, and just have fun and enjoy. So that's it, that is how to make a pizza from scratch. It's good, it smells amazing. So have fun experimenting. If you try various things, let me know how they go, and if you've got any suggestions for future culinary creations, then by all means get in touch and I'll certainly see if I can give them a go. So happy experimenting, see you next time. Oh, that is a bit dry. Alright then. That's what I'm going to do, is just plonk in just a splidge of water. That should do it. But let's just do a little bit at a time so that it gets in there. It's not squidgy now. Oh god, I'll cover this one up. Okay, I think we might be restarting. Okay, we'll start again.